I'd like to call this meeting to order. Will you please rise? Mr. Williams, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, sir?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will you join me in prayer, please? In honor of Teacher Appreciation Week, which is May 6th through the 10th, I dedicate this prayer to our educators. Father, in the name of Jesus, I pray that you will raise up godly educators who are dedicated to their field and can capture the hearts and minds of our nation's youth on each level of education. I sincerely ask that our educators will pray unceasingly for the guidance and wisdom to become examples to their students you wish them to be, and that our students would be receptive to the dedication on the part of our teachers. May the standards of excellence be restored in our institutions of learning so that our educators will be prepared to pass on the spirit of excellence. May they be empowered to require excellence and reprove sloth and ignorance. It's in your name we most humbly pray. Amen. Welcome everyone to our Thursday, May the 9th, 2013 public business meeting. Gentlemen, are there any additions or deletions to our agenda?
No, sir.
No, sir.
I'd like to entertain a motion for the approval of our May 2nd, 2013 public business meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Brody, seconded by Commissioner Valentine. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Gentlemen, under the report of the President, I'd like to report to you that I had an opportunity on Tuesday to attend the annual Innovations in Government Conference and Public Service Awards Luncheon. And at that awards luncheon, we had the great honor of awarding the Janet L. Hoffman Award for Local Government Public Service to our own William J. George, who was our Assistant Director of Finance. And I thought it would be appropriate for me to read the comments that I shared to the people in the audience about our own J. George. Alleghany County has for 20 consecutive years earned the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting awarded by the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada for the country's comprehensive annual financial report. This prestigious award recognizes that the CAFR achieves the highest standard in government accounting and fiscal reporting. The CAFR is prepared by Alleghany County government to provide its citizens with a detailed picture of the financial affairs of the county. It exemplifies the Alleghany County Commissioner's policy calling for openness, transparency, professionalism, and ethical behavior. The receipt of the Certificate of Achievement for the past 20 years enhances the public good. Mr. George was the sole person responsible for the completion of Alleghany County's CAFR in 19 of the 20 years Alleghany County earned its Certificate of Achievement. His accomplishments demonstrates a sustained high-quality performance over a significant period of time in local government service. Indeed, Mr. George is appreciated and valued not so much for his work on the CAFR, but his overall professional expertise he possesses and personal judgment he exercises in his endeavors as Assistant Director of Finance. Having served as Alleghany County's citizens and stakeholders with dedication and distinction since 1985, Mr. George will retire from public service in 2013. Alleghany County government has benefited from his exemplary public service. It was an honor to award one of our fellow workers here. And Jay, if you are watching, congratulations and thank you again.
Very good.
Okay. Item number 1, Commissioners, is our 5-year CIP budget. Mr. Gale. Adam.
Mr. Patterson, you're squinting. I don't see your glasses.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I am squinting. I was in David's office this afternoon about 3 o'clock. Sat my glasses down by accident. Come back downstairs, went back upstairs to get them. Haven't seen them since. Thank you.
Well, who's got your back?
You sure that you didn't have these on?
I didn't have this on, no, sir. I had these on.
Okay.
I have nothing to do with that.
Well, thank you.
Are we taking them out of my office?
Thank goodness he can read the numbers tonight.
Give me just a second. And if you don't mind. Okay. When it's in the back ones too.
I don't call it our eyes for nothing.
There we are.
Chair. I think I need a pair.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Commissioners, what you have here this evening is the capital improvement program for 14 to 18 and a recommendation from the committee. A little bit of background on the process. Capital projects greater than $25,000 and greater life expectancy beyond 10 years. We begin this process in January. There's a list of the voting members of the committee for the county. We had a draft version of the CIP program on April 3rd to the commissioners, and here we are tonight with the final version requesting approval and scheduled for adoption on June 6th. I've changed the format a little bit this year, mainly because I kind of lost interest as I went through slide after slide, and you see one project on there the first year and it's still on there 5 years later, but I think this will better explain itself in this format. So just give me a minute to explain what you're seeing here. On the far left, what you'll see is the department or agency, and then you'll see a project name, generally self-explanatory. Next column being whether it's a new project or it's a project we've had in the program before. Any prior money, either fiscal year 13 that we're in or even before that. Money being requested in 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and beyond, the projections. Important column is the Allegany County total for the project, and then a project total, next column. And then the final column would be the committee's recommendations this evening, and it has generally a funding source. And I'll give you a good example as we move on forward how these numbers change over on the right regarding, we got county funding and then we have other funding sources. So beginning here with the fairgrounds, what you see is you have 3 projects there. And again, this evening, what we're focusing on are projects that we're requesting funds for in upcoming fiscal 14. Okay? The second project there, for example, we're not requesting funds in fiscal year 14, so it's noted in the far right column as future. So it's recognized as a valuable project concept, but we're not seeking funding for it, so there is not as much scrutiny. Okay, so again, we're looking at the 14 column in funding. So we have improvements for the north end restrooms, as we've just completed the restrooms near the grandstand. So over in the right-hand column, we're recommending an approval, and we've earmarked this as possible program open space funds. Access Road, it's been on the radar screen for some time, and what you see there is just a future request, and we're not seeking funding for it in this upcoming fiscal year. caretaker's house. There previously was a caretaker's house there. We're exploring interest in getting another caretaker's house reconstructed out there to make sure we have the security necessary at the fairgrounds. And that's been earmarked as a potential program open space project. What you also see then is how they've been summarized for projects for the particular years. Moving on, Allegany College. Technology building project. I've been working again recently with the community, Allegany College of Maryland, with regard to this project. And again, it's future, but how their programming works is they need to be able to seek state funding for fiscal year 15 this summer. So I have given them a little bit of guidance on where they need to be looking for, a project budget. These numbers have been the same numbers for several years. So there'll be more to come with this project, but again, there's no money that needs to be approved for fiscal year 14. Board of Education projects. Again, the first one there being Allegany High School. It is noted as a future project, and as you guys had approved in the November 29th meeting, you increased your funding, future funding that we had borrowed for that project by $1 million to a total of $9.2 million, and that's programmed and has been programmed since for 2 years for fiscal year 15. And then a column over on the right, the Allegany County total, that's $11.2 million, and then you can see the difference there is the project total, which comes from the state and the state of Maryland. New project, again, these are self-explanatory. Braddock Middle School roof, future. Frost Elementary roof, future. Mount Savage roof replacement of phase 2. Sometimes they'd end up doing these roof projects in phases to be able to better leverage the funding available. Washington Middle roof, and then we have a Westmar Middle roof replacement, a phase 2 project that we're recommending gaming funding for this coming year. Future project for Braddock Middle School, some paving and sidewalks. Same goes for Washington Middle, paving and sidewalks. Frost Elementary, paving and parent drop-off. Future Northeast Gym addition. It's been on there for some time. And lastly, there is some lighting improvements in 20 different schools throughout the county. And again, the funding being a future funding scenario for the county. If there's any questions, please just stop me as we go through these.
Adam, can we go right back to the top of the page real quick?
Yes, sir.
Under the Allegany High School Replacement Project.
Yes, sir.
Board of Commissioners took formal action with a code bill earlier this year to increase their allocation by $1 million, and I believe that commitment was precipitated by a pledge that the Board of Education made to identify an additional $1 million towards the demolition of the existing hospital facility. I don't see that $1 million represented here.
That's the 9.2. It was 8.2, and then November 29th, 2012, that's when the commissioners amended it. And it was 9.2.
We put $1 million in it, and
Right.
it was done as supposedly a match to the Board of Education's agreement.
Correct. The
That's
Board
what $1 million, and
Board of
that's not-
Education that month had voted to put $1 million additional into the Allegany project,
You are
as
correct.
long as the county commissioners were able to match that dollar for dollar.
Right, and so the AC total was 11.2. That $1 million that the board agreed to would make the total funding then locally at 12.2.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Again, this is coming from this building here. That AC total was from this shop right here.
Okay. Well, it just needs to be noted, that's all.
Anything else?
Not at this point.
Okay, on to here at our building. Previously, we started some HVAC improvements here, and that started fiscal year 13. and we're recommending to continue those improvements here in fiscal year 14 with the replacement of a chiller. We've also planned for some HVAC improvements at the depot. And as you are well aware, that the sheriff's office there, the fourth one shown, there's kind of the funding scenario that we're seeking approval for, $380,000 for fiscal year 14. All of these just county funding PAYGO projects, and also the sheriff's office is considered a capital project. Jason will be able to explain those here shortly. One that we've had in the program for several years is a drainage improvement program, and what is that intended to be used for is private property drainage complaints. Honestly, at times it seems like they're endless. And so this is a funding source that the commissioner started several years ago. It's a great program. It's where citizens call in and we go through an engineering analysis, and if they're willing to contribute 50% towards the construction costs, and we make a recommendation that commissioners supply the other 50%, we proceed. On to the roads and bridges for the Department of Public Works. River Road Bridge. This one is not a new project. It's been on the horizon for some time. I've indicated there a couple weeks ago that I may have some good news with regard to a CSX bridge replacement project, and that continues to unfold. So we're not quite there yet, but it sure looks like we're going to get a new bridge out at River Road with very little county funding, but I'll have more in the future on that. The Orleans Road South Bridge, this has been going on for some time, as you're well aware. You see a rather large dollar figure in 2014. What I'm telling you is that project at this point is pretty much at a standstill. And I do not intend on trying to proceed with that project with that funding, but that's the best dollar amount that I have at this point. OP Road, very similar to the Drainage Improvement Program, where we assist people, on basically other public roads, which is not a county, city, or state maintained road. It's the residents maintain that road. Very popular program since 2001, and where the residents come up with 50% of the cost to improve the road, and then the county commissioners match it with the other 50%. Revolving roads, to further expand upon, really what the OP road program is, but it really then, it brings the road into the county system. This is a much better long-term plan, but this is a program that we're looking at in the future, perhaps 2015. Potomac Hollow Road Bridge, under design, hopefully going to advertise this project for construction very soon. We've started in about 2 years ago, and there's the estimated funding that we'll need from the county as our local match. This is a federal bridge project. Valley Street, not a new project as well. You're well aware of the improvements we want to make at Valley Street with the Allegany Highlands Trail. We want to take the crossing that is currently at grade and bring it below the bridge. We are at about 90% plans on that project as well. Funding source at this point, we're looking at possibly program open space. Jeffries Road stream crossing. This one kind of jumped up on us after Hurricane Sandy. It went rather old crossing, and due to the high flows during the storm event, we had somewhat of a bank failure below at the outfall of the culvert. And since that time now, the crossing has been somewhat compromised. So we're trying to seek to replace that road crossing right now. It's a combination box culvert and a concrete culvert pipe. $105,000 for that. That's a recommended approval with PAYGO funds. And then we have a couple future that have been very much nuisance, long-term historical drainage problems. Cherry Lane, and then skipping ahead there, Porter Road is the same one. Expanding our operation out of the Old Town Garage future project. Future project would be the Central Garage salt dome replacement. The roof is just in bad shape, but we're looking at trying to do that perhaps in the following year. and a state aid paving contract. We're seeking $200,000 from county money to go towards the $800,000 that I can get from the state to do a handful of roads here in the county. And then also, the last one there would be Old Braddock Trail out in Old Town, an older bridge, has not had any attention to it for a long time. It's severely weight restricted, and we're in much need of replacing that bridge. Okay, on to the sewer projects. A couple things to note here. Over in the far right column, you'll see in 2014 recommendations, it says no AC money. And what that means is the improvements made in these different sanitary districts, the improvements are funded by grant and loan, the loan being paid by the users of the system. Another thing to note is how we use the word phases. We end up, and we recognize that nobody wants to end up going way in debt to be able to, make these sanitary improvements. So we're able to program and leverage the grant possibilities in these different districts and phase these improvements in over time. Same goes for the projects on this next sheet, continuation of our public works sewer projects. The only difference there is the Bowling Green equipment garage, and that's a future project, and it's been in the program for quite some time, but it's some necessary space that we'd like to have out there at our utilities division in Bowling Green. Same goes for the water projects, which you see over in the far right column is that we don't have any county money in these. And again, they're funded by the users of the system. They're down in the, Potomac River Water Treatment Plant study. This one right here is just yesterday, we heard back from MDE regarding a withdrawal permit from the Potomac, and it was due to expire this coming summer. What we had learned is they have given us a 1-year extension. As you're all well aware, though, we're also building phase 1 of Rawlings right now, and we've yet to reach an agreement with the city of Cumberland on the water for that project. So this is something that we'll have to be looking at pretty closely here as we go in the future. There's our Rawlings, the phases of it. Phase 1 currently under construction. Phase 2 most likely be going to construction later this summer. Any questions so far? 4 economic development projects. Barton Business Park. Wanting to begin this coming year some of the design work for another building out in our Barton Business Park. North Branch, this is a land acquisition in that industrial park. The construction of an additional road up in the Frostburg Industrial Park. A couple of these, you'll look over to the far right, you'll see that it's RBF money. So we're recommending these projects, and the funding source is through the revolving building fund. Project 3 there, I believe Matt's earmarked some ARC money to go towards the Frostburg Industrial Park access road. The last project there for economic development is the extension of the fiber that's currently in Crescent Town out to the Barton Industrial Park. On to emergency services. Future project, the replacement of the radio consoles at the 911 center. Estimated project cost there from Dick DeVore's group. IT, AlcoNet, I believe you're well aware from Jason and Beth Thomas, the improvements that are necessary, and here they are, they're phased. Phase 1, we're looking to, we need $150,000 this coming year to make the necessary improvements to the AlcoNet, and there's the estimated funding we'll need from the county in phase 2, fiscal year 15. The third one is the fiber that's been run by the state this past year. It's ongoing. It's been dropped off basically at several of the county-owned buildings, and now there's the money that we'll need to make up some of the connections. Recommending approval using PAYGO funds. Library. 3 projects from the library. I've been working with John Tobe closely on being able to come up with a phase scenario for the improvements out at the South Cumberland Library. We're recommending to be able to go in there and work on the roof this coming fiscal year. And over on the far right-hand column is a $100,000 project total, $50,000 most likely coming from the state. Haven't received final word on that, and $50,000 that we would like from the county. And then phase 2 is what has happened now with the funding scenarios for improvements in the public library. The funding ratio is changing. It was a 50-50 funding ratio, and now it's going towards a 90, I believe it's a 90-10, John has told me. So there's some phased improvements that we have worked through for, again, out of the South Cumberland Library. And then a new project over at Washington Street, $50,000 request to be able to rehab the columns on the Washington Street Library. The $25,000 difference is from a grant that we seek from Maryland Historical Trust. And really, that dazzle you with all the numbers. Those are all the numbers. And what you can see at the bottom are totals. $3.5 million for fiscal year 14 is what it comes down to. Generally, what I like to do then is show you some of the completed projects. Just a list to try to make this move along quicker. Usually I have some different pictures, but there are 2 roof replacement projects through the Board of Education, a generator upgrade at our detention center, a generator upgrade at our transit facility, a handful of sewer projects, Bedford Road Sanitary District, Braddock Run Sanitary District, 2 in the Jennings Run Sanitary District, and we plan to be done phase 1 construction by July 1st, and so that's why that's shown here. And improvements, electrical improvements through economic development at the Riverside building, and a much needed HVAC upgrade at our multipurpose building at the fairgrounds. Happy to answer any questions. Information will be posted on the website.
Thank you, Adam. Perfect. Thank you.
Welcome. I do want to give credit to Dan DeWitt. Dan has really helped me out a lot with this, keeping the numbers and making this run very smoothly. So I want to give credit to Dan. Dan couldn't be here tonight.
Okay. Now may I call on you?
You may.
All right. Mr. Kale.
Oh, you have your glasses?
Don't put them down, so yeah.
Be careful, Mike will take them if you put them down.
While I'm looking, you talked about J. George. I hope he showed up to that presentation. Did he?
He and his bride were there.
He is the true behind the scenes. I had the privilege of working with him my 27 years with the county. Jay's so knowledgeable and such a humble guy. I'm surprised he showed up. You seldom seen him here. He provided the information to Jason, myself, and Jerry France, Steve Young, et cetera, and he always was a great guy to work with, and I'm sure he's not watching this today. But he was a great guy and a hard worker. We're going to miss him.
We had to twist his arm to get him there.
I'm betting because we had to twist his arm to have a little function for him to celebrate. Jason's really going to miss him.
Mm-hmm.
Hope this works because it'll be an opportunity for Adam Patterson to make fun of my abilities. What we did during the CIP presentation, we talked about the roads department. So this is kind of like a quick snapshot of the CIP within the roads department. And the reason their difference is that the CIP, as Adam mentioned, is 25,000 or above, and it's a 15-year life. So what we have here is we do a myriad of projects within each budget. They're less than the 25,000. They don't show up, but they're very important. So just a quick snapshot of our roads, what we need to do to keep going. Existing inventory, we have chip seal roads, blacktop roads, and gravel roads. The chip seal roads, what we call tar and chip. But, so we have total about 530, 540 miles of bridges, or roads, I'm sorry, looking ahead. Bridges, we have 54 major bridges, which is longer than 20 feet, and 85 small bridges. Guardrail, we have 167,000, a little over that. Drainage pipe, we have 55,200 estimated. Line striping, you look, we have over 1 million miles or 1 million feet of line striping. The reason that is you do a double yellow line and you do a white line on each side of the road. And signs, we have 5,670 signs. Our chip seal roads, what we try to do is we put a double surface treatment on, which we put 2 layers of stone and oil in there. We have 312 miles. The standard this is just not our standard, but across the board, across the nation, we try to do a chip seal road every 7 years. So if you look, we should be doing 45 miles per year. And the cost is approximately $16,500 for materials. It's approximately, the reason being, Garage 2, our Old Town and Flintstone garages could get stone from Martin Marietta, and our other garages get it from Allegany aggregate. So it depends upon how far we have to move the stone is why it's a different price sometimes. So that's an average. If you look at that on the average, our total chip seal improvement cost per year is $742,500, and that's materials only. We do all of our chip sealing work ourselves within the roads department. Do you have a question, Dave?
It's all good.
Okay,
You're
all right,
rolling.
good. Blacktop roads, right now, we like to blacktop the roads about every 15 years, and that's blacktop paving. We have 95 miles of that. We'd like to try to do that every 15 years, and that's 6.3 miles. That costs approximately $150,000 per mile. Again, it depends upon whether we need to mill it. There's variations, but that's an average. Our total blacktop road improvements per year would be $945,000. The reason we're trying to keep up with this is because if you do it every 15 years, you keep from doing a rebuild. If you go to 20, 25 years and you start getting severe cracking and you get infiltration of water, then you're talking about a rebuild. So now we're probably talking, $250,000, $300,000. It depends upon each situation, is a little different. So we try to maintain those to keep them up so we don't get into the big costs. Resurfacing of gravel roads is heavily dependent upon traffic volumes and weather. If we have a lot of snow plowing, we'll plow some of that gravel off, et cetera. Most, if not, I'd say almost 90% of our gravel roads are down the Old Town and Flintstone area. We don't see very many gravel roads up here in the Georges Creek and Frostburg area. Estimated gravel road improvements, we pay about $50,000 a year. Again, that's only materials. Line striping. Unfortunately, when I was with the roads department in '98, late '90s, we could line stripe every 2 years because we used a different type of paint. It actually had some lead in it, and it would last for a long time. Now we go to water-based, so it usually every year we have to redo it. The cost of line striping is 0.065 per linear foot, and county roads also adds about approximately 2,000 feet of guardrail per year. We go through a scenario of trying to look at areas with hills. The county also replaces $15,000 worth of signs per year, and we call the signs, the guardrail, and the line striping traffic control. So we have $115,000 worth of cost to try to keep up with that. Bridge replacement cost. Average annual bridge replacement cost is $900,000. And what may happen is we may do a bridge for $900,000, we may do a bridge for $450,000, and then maybe 2 years later we'll do one for a couple million. So it depends upon the size of the bridge. Our regular bridge maintenance per year is $200,000. That's painting, scour, repair, putting guardrails up. Inspection on major bridges required every 2 years at $400,000. And so we say we got a cost of $200,000 per year. We have to do that by law. That is required by law to do that on all the major bridges. And again, that's the ones over 20 feet long. And Adam and Dan DeWitt running that program. Our total annual bridge cost is of $1.3 million. Drainage, we replace about 1,900 feet of drainage pipe at approximately $16 per foot. Again, that's materials only. We repair and construct about 15 drainage inlets. It depends upon whether we do a complete rebuild or just a grate. And we budget $40,000 a year for drainage improvements, and the majority of the work's done by us. Every once in a while, we'll get someone to help us on a bigger project, but usually we do that ourselves too. Equipment needs. County Roads wants to have frontline trucks and serving the 25 snow routes to be less than 12 years old. We have 25 snow routes in the county, so when it snows, we have 25 trucks out. that do they start from the most steepest roads and heavily traveled roads, and they go through a scenario of kind of a pattern. Up until a couple years ago, we were trying to keep 10 years. I've talked to Dave Teeter, the guy, and we think we can go to 12 to try to make it, the trucks will last a little bit longer, so we're going to try to go to 12 years. We're not there. We got somewhere to go. And we're trying to keep our spare trucks less than 20 years old. And then that used to be 15, and now we're trying to get that to 22. Prior to this year, the county went 3 years without replacing trucks. We just received 3 this year. And prior to that, we went 3 years without replacing, and also we had a 4-year period in 2002 to 2005 without any replacements. So we're a little bit behind. We're recommending 3 new dump trucks and 1 new pickup per year at an annual cost of $445,000. Proposed annual plan. So that's just a summary of what I just talked about. If you add that up of all what we think we need every year, we would need about $3.6 million per year. That would keep us solid and keep up with our maintenance. Existing funding in the roads budget for capital improvements equals almost a little bit over $1.7 million. And what that is, that's where our materials are at. That's where our drainage is at, some of our bridge maintenance. We also get coal tax funding approximately $100,000 a year. It's been good lately. Some years it's been less over the history, and some years it's been more. Right now we're averaging about $100,000 per year. Our federal bridge funding is approximately $1 million per year. And our state aid funding is approximately $150,000 per year. Existing capital costs for equipment is $305,000. And so total existing annual funding is $3.3 million. So while we're looking going for the future, our highway user funding in FY 2008 was $4.6 million.
Go slow here, Paul.
Okay.
Real slow.
It's going to make Jason, if I go too slow, he's just going to crumble back
he's
there.
Used to
He's going to. So in FY08 it was 4.6. This is our highway user tax. This was really a big issue back then, and still is for the counties. The following year they reduced it by over $500,000. In FY 2009 we went down to $4 million. Since then, Allegheny County has been receiving between $230,000 and $424,000 per year. So you look at that, we've taken a hit over $4 million that the county now provides towards the roads budget that we didn't have to do prior to 2009. So it's a huge hit. County general funds have been utilized to fill that funding gap. So what's happened when that occurred, we kind of got the roads budget and really tried to keep it right here without any increases for obvious reasons, and we've been keeping up. I'm pretty proud of how the guys maintain the roads. I think our county roads are in pretty good shape. They can be improved, of course, but I think we're not falling off the cliff, but we do need to step it up a little bit, hopefully, in the future. When you looked at the 2 previous slides, the difference between the recommended funding that I talked about and the actual funding is $328,000 per year. So right now, we feel we could get an extra $328,000 over our budget. We think we could be running where we should be running. Realizing what economic times we're in, we're hopefully on an upward slope, but obviously we still got a ways to go, and there's a lot of needs. The county's goal is to creatively work to address this shortfall in the next 3 to 5 years. So what we're trying to do is build a basis from what we need. Again, we're not falling off a cliff right now. We're maintaining pretty good, but we would hope to try to work towards, in the next 3 to 5 years, how we could try to come up with that additional money and to work with finance and hope the economy will pick up. Okay. Any questions then?
The only statement that I want to do is I appreciate you doing this. It was a request that the commissioners had to go ahead and put the roads, to talk about it with the CIP. I mean, we've got a stool, we've got education, we've got public safety, and we have roads department, public works. Thank you, public works. And for that stool to be sturdy, all 3 have to be securely funded. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We can't count on the state, especially with the $4.6 million that has been taken away, and we don't believe that that's ever going to come back. So we've got to plan for it. So thank you.
You're welcome.
For taking care of that request.
Paul, did Brian and Matthew get a copy of your presentation?
Yeah, they can.
Okay. Make sure they have it.
I'm sure they'll want to read that.
Jason, how would he pay for all this?
We don't, I think.
There you go. You print it in the basement.
Yeah, I think I can put it up here. I'm not quite sure how I follow up those two, but I'll try. To their credit, those two in their department deal with an awful lot of wide-ranging topics, from roads to water sewer to, building maintenance, lots of stuff, and they handle it, so kudos to them. So as part of the CIP, what we do every year is the debt affordability component. Obviously, when you get into the CIP, some of the bigger projects require the issuance of debt. So I'm going to spend a few minutes tonight just talking about how we plan to pay for some of the projects that Adam and Paul talked about. And I will note this presentation will be on the website. I think there's at least some handouts here, but it's certainly available. As we look at debt affordability, we actually have a model that was done nearly 20 years ago, kind of gave us a guideline on what we could borrow, what our limits to borrowing are. I guess the most important thing from this thing is, thankfully, we're nowhere near our maximum limits on this right now. And I don't think anyone has any intention of getting there. So I'll just point out a few things on this. The way this model's set up, we could go to a maximum of $585 per capita, per resident, under this debt model. Thankfully, for 14, it looks like we're going to be at about $194. So we're well under, probably at a comfortable place. One other thing that this looks at is debt service to general fund revenue. It allows, as you'll see down in the highlighted area, 11.7%. It's looking like for 14, we're going to be at about 3.45%. And if you were to do the math on that, the 11.7% would equate to $9.7 million of debt service. Thankfully, we're right at about $3 million. So you can see there's $6.7 million that if we went to the max, we'd have to essentially cut from something else. So I don't think anyone wants to look at that opportunity. So we're in a good place. This slide here simply looks at our existing debt as it stands today. And we've got it stretched out to 2023, which is 10 years from now. And you can see, thanks to a couple things, by 2023, existing debt will be very nearly completely paid off. That's because of, over the past few years, we've been aggressive in repaying our debt, so we've shortened our terms as we issue debt. We've gone from 20 and 25 years down to 15 and 10 everywhere we can. We've also been very selective in the debt that we issue. So we're finally starting to kind of reap the benefits of what we've done over the past few years. So very good position here. When we went and met with the bond raters, they certainly liked to see this type of data in front of them, this slide. They were very happy to see it within 10 years, most all debt is gone. This next slide here shows existing debt, and then in the blue, you'll see debt that we're planning as part of this CIP. I'll note right now, the only debt from what Adam presented that we have programmed in here is the 9.2 for Allegany High School, and we've programmed in kind of a contingent amount for Allegany College of Maryland and Technologies building. They're reevaluating that project to see if they can bring the scope of it down. But we feel like in the future it's going to be a project we're going to have to borrow for. So we've programmed some in there. You can see that 2015, when we think we'll incur the debt at this point, it's going to put us a little bit over $25 million. It's beginning to get to the point where we got to really watch what we do from there on out as far as borrowing. That's probably near our limits at this point with the way the economy's been. So as of now, those are the only two projects that we have in the hopper. This slide, you've certainly seen many times, and we've talked about many times over the last few years. What we're looking at with this slide is our total debt service in red. Then in blue would be the estimated debt service from new debt. And then the green squiggly line there you see would be our debt service goals. And as you know, back in August of 2011, we made an update to our debt affordability based on the way the economy was heading in our position here. We felt we needed to move that goal down so that we could better take care of everything we needed to take care of. So we made a shift from $5 million adjusted for inflation down to $4 million. And we're going to try to keep that at a flat line. You can see from this, for 13, we're basically right under it. Then as we move into 14, our budget this year is slightly over $3 million. So we've quickly, thankfully, moved underneath of our goal and into a good position. A lot of this came as a result of the refi. We did the refinance back a couple months ago. This really helped our debt service for the next couple of years. It's going to tick back up on us, but it certainly helped to get us in a good position and allowed a little extra money for some one-time projects. So long story short, we're in a good position now. As you look in 16, when we think we're going to start to have our first set of debt service payments for the new high school primarily, you can see we're getting closer to the line. And after Paul's presentation, you know, there may have to be some serious consideration about roads and how we make that fit to keep up with the maintenance plan. So we're going to need a little bit of wiggle room within there. I would also like to point out that we're at $3 million now, so anything we go over $3 million essentially requires new money at this point. A new source of revenues to pay for it, or a cut to something existing. So something we have to be, I think, very mindful of as we go forward. And then just some conclusions, essentially. I've talked about a lot of them. You know, we're going to have to really continue to be conservative in our borrowing over the next several years as we're still struggling to get out of the recession. We're in a good position, but we need to make sure and work hard to stay in that position. In the past, and still, we've been able to leverage gaming proceeds. As you know, we take 75% of our proceeds from gaming and give them to Board of Education projects. We've been able to use them very well over the years to the tune of about $2.5 million over the last 10 years. But we're watching those funds slowly decline on us to the point that we're under $200,000 a year now, really not able to cover much in the way of projects. As you look at a capital project, obviously they get big quickly. So it's not doing what it used to for us. We can continue to use it, but I think we're going to see it continue to dwindle on us. So, you know, it's one thing we've kind of lost. We had in the past. Now we're going to have to find another source for some of these smaller projects. And obviously, any additional projects are going to increase our debt level, so we're really going to have to launch. So one thing we've done over the last few years that's really helped out, and certainly in this year, is we're trying to do projects with one-time money. As we have savings from something, we have savings from the refinance, we repurpose that and do one-time capital projects rather than program it into ongoing costs. That'll help significantly as we go forward to make sure we're not incurring more debt. And then the last thing there, you know, we need to continue to work on keeping our debt service low, keeping a good fund balance. And this is going to help us as we go forward in the next year to year and a half back on the market to borrow money for a new Allegany. The better we can keep our bond rating, the lower the interest rate we have. So something we're really going to have to continue to work on. It's certainly good news we got the upgrades a couple months ago, but you know, our work's not done. We've got to keep working to keep that rating and hopefully improve that rating as we go forward. So every little bit will help. It'll save money and help everyone out.
Okay, good.
So that was it tonight. The adoption of the CIP, as Adam mentioned, is slated for June the 6th. This information will be on our website. And if anyone would like to email me, they certainly can. I'll send it to them. And, we'll take it from there. Any
So
comments
any
from you at this
questions
point?
or that kind of stuff, they can email you or call
Absolutely.
you.
Yeah,
And then we'll have opportunity in the next couple meetings for comment and that kind of stuff.
that's right.
So, Mr. Wade, if your question didn't get answered, we'll get with you and get that answered or have it proposed in the next week or so.
I
So,
think after the other two guys talked, I got the drift.
okay,
My question's been answered.
okay, all right, perfect. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll stay here for the next.
Item
one.
number 2 is our preliminary budget hearing. Turn it over to you, Mr. Jason.
As you know, we presented the preliminary budget back on April 25th. And as part of the preliminary budget, there's two public hearings that we have as part of the process. First one was last week where we accepted public comment. Second one would be this week where we're simply taking public comment. So it's an $82.6 million budget, and as of now, we're slated to adopt June 6th. So with
Okay.
that, I'm just going to turn it over for public comment.
Okay, looks like we have 5 people that have signed up. The first one that signed up is Mr. Wade. As Mr. Wade does come to the podium, just remind everyone to state your name and address for the record.
Mike Wade, 57 South Broadway, Frostburg. Good evening, Commissioners. It's been a while since I've taken this podium, and I'm going to take a moment to comment on that. The other times I was up here, I was after the 3 commissioners to tell the truth. Today, I'm here to say you gentlemen are doing a great job. I'm extremely pleased with the way you're leading our county. But I'm also here today because of a letter that was put in the paper on April 29th. The Teachers Association had a letter to the editor about you and the budget. And then again, they commented on May 7th with another letter to the editor. And basically, they're painting a picture of to the people of Allegany County that you don't care about the kids. At least that's my impression of that letter. They allude to the fact that you're going to cut their budget to where it will affect educating our children. And I, for one, resent the remarks like that from professionals saying things like that towards you before you've even made a decision on the budget. They ask the public to bring pressure to bear on you to get what they want. And I have a lot of heartburn with that too, because again, even though the budget has been submitted, you gentlemen haven't even made a decision yet on that. Am I correct?
Correct. The adoption will be on June the
Okay.
6th.
Now, and I've also confirmed this, and this is another issue I have with the school board, and I promise you, I'm going to go see those folks at the school board. In regards to budget, you know, they're beating you up over budget decisions, and I recently learned that they asked you for $50,000 after their budget had been submitted. They then came back, said, hey, we need $50,000 more to buy school books. Now, to me, if you're in the business of educating children, you would think the $50,000 would have been in the front of that budget and not after you've already approved one and then come back and ask for additional money. And it's my understanding you still found that $50,000 and gave it to them. Is that correct?
That's last year.
Okay. I'd like to go on record that I support funding education of our children, but just once, I'd like the school board or the Teachers Association to give us a report card to the taxpayers on some statistics. And I'm also here to, I hope you'll just give me a moment to read my letter to the editor so you know what I'm saying about you, if the paper will print it. And what I'm getting at is a report card. If we have 1,000 kids who are going to graduate this year, I want to know what percent of them are at the 12th grade reading and math level. If we don't have 80% of them at that level, then we are not doing well. And I realize you're not in the business to educate. You're in the business to get money so that our educators can do their job. I want to quote something I read. This was years ago of an educator, principal, up in the Northeast area. And he had a rundown school with no athletic program and no field trips. and he had the highest academic record in the state. And when he was asked about it, he responded, all the effort goes into reading, writing, arithmetic, and science. And every time I read the newspaper about our school system, I hear everything except academics. So I'm going to promise you something, commissioners. If we don't start seeing statistics showing the success of our academic standings of our children, I'll be visiting the school board just like I used to visit this place. If you'll let me read you this letter I sent to the Times News. The Allegheny County Teachers Association Board of Directors recently put a letter in the paper asking that the county commissioners to fully fund the Board of Education's budget, requesting for the upcoming fiscal year. ACTA went on to ask the public to encourage the commissioners to recognize that the responsibility they have to fund their schools at a level that allows the system to keep its head above water. I, for one, see this as a political maneuver by ACTA as a way to blackmail the commissioners of they will tell the teachers, or they will tell the teachers not to vote for them. I have suggested for the Teachers Association, if you, in your next letter, try this approach, and you would like the county commissioners to give us what we want because of the county's public school system is number one in the state of Maryland. Academically, our graduating seniors are proficient in reading and math. 80% of our students who take the SAT score is above the national average. Now, if you can give us those kind of facts, the public will get behind you. So I say to the Teachers Association, before you go to condemn our commissioners, who, by the way, inherited a mess by the state of Maryland, let's ask the school board to do a better job on their end. It is so much to ask the school board to simply do a better job with less. Everyone else has managed to do so during the past 3 years. To the citizens of Allegheny County, I suggest you start asking the school board to show us some basic numbers on how we are doing. How many kids at each grade level are proficient in reading and math? If we don't have 80% of each class proficient in reading and math, we are not doing well. I want to thank you for this opportunity to bring that message.
Thank you, Mr. Wade, for your comments. Ms. Debbie Pappas?
I had just a couple things to add. I won't keep very long. I'd just like them to be on the record since this is a public hearing about your budget. According to Mr. Bennett, and from what I've read, the total county proposed budget for FY14 is $82,667,432. Is that correct, Mr. Bennett? If the county funds the budget request by the board without the supplemental security requests that they also had in there, the Board of Ed's share of that budget would be approximately 36.9% of the county budget. If they would give them the $500,000 supplement for security that they asked, it would be about 37.4% of the budget. I believe I was before this body in 2011, and at that time I think the county's portion that the school board was given was about 40%, so it has dropped over the last several years. And I would remind folks that the Allegheny County per pupil expenditure is the 4th lowest in the state currently. Also, from looking at the Board of Education's operating appropriation from the county, in FY08, they received $28,380,000. And their current request is at $27,884,291. That's almost $500,000 less than what they received in 2008. As we all know, we've been in a recession since that time. We've all had to tighten our belts, and yet our budgets have been blown out of the water by costs for things that we don't have a lot of control over. A long time ago, I had a very well-respected principal that I worked with, and he told me something that you may also have heard, which is that our schools are run on the 3 Bs: beans, brooms, and buses. And as far as the beans go, it's more expensive these days to be able to feed the students when they're in our cafeterias, to give them nourishment that they need to get through the school day. We have a higher percentage than we have had of those who are qualifying for free and reduced meals in our county. It's over 50%. We still need clean and safe schools, and that doesn't get any cheaper. And the fuel for our buses and transporting our students is not any less than it has been in 2008. So I think that the school board is trying to do the best that they can. They've lost, as I mentioned last week, over 100 employees in that amount of time. While we're appreciative of you funding it maintenance of effort, I don't really feel that maintenance of effort means an adequate education. It basically means minimum effort to me, and I think our students deserve better than that. I will keep stressing the connection between quality education and a quality workforce and a good economic opportunity in our county. And I hope you will join me in making that connection. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Pappas. Mr. Evan West.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'm Evan West. I live at 403 Bell Street in Cumberland. Get my stuff together here.
Take your time, sir.
Thank you. First off, I wanted to speak as, number one, a constituent, a citizen of the county, resident of Cumberland. Number two, as a father of a 9-year-old that attends Westside Elementary School. And then finally, as the paid representative of the Allegheny County Teachers Association, for whom I'm proud to represent. I don't make any bones about the fact that I work for ACTA and MSEA at large. I take pride in that because I was once a teacher in this system. And I know that the quality of education that's provided by the teachers in this system is second to none. Mr. Wade mentioned statistics. Well, I would encourage Mr. Wade and any other citizen that wants to know how good the schools are here to go to mdreportcard.org, and you can look it up. We consistently outperform other systems with similar economic challenges, free and reduced meal rates, for example, on math, reading, and science tests. We consistently outperform the state in graduation rate. We also have the most highly qualified teaching staff in the state that was rated #1 in the country for the last 5 years in a row. I think it's very important to question the quality that taxpayers get for the education money that the taxpayers spend on it. It is important to question that. I think if you research it and you look into it, you'll find the quality of education in this county is second to none. Not just in this state, but in this country. And that speaks to the dedication of the people that work in the school system in Allegheny County. Now, Commissioner McKay, last year you said something that was right on point when I stood up in front of this group of commissioners and spoke about the budget. You said that liars figure and figures lie. I think it's probably more accurate to say that two groups of people, two opposing sides of an issue, can honestly use statistics to try to make a case that may seem like it conflicts. Okay, that statistics can be used honestly to make an honest point, and they still may not say the same thing. With that in mind, I want to make an appeal to the commissioners that's more from the heart, that's more heartfelt, that has to do less with numbers than it does with what's going on in our schools and what we can rightfully consider to be adequate. To me, as a father, the only number that matters is what the Board of Education requested, with one caveat, and that is what they're requesting reasonable, and are they requesting things that really need to be done, really need to happen? You know, I've been around the politics of education for a long time, and I lived in different parts of the state, and I've seen how it works. I've seen budget requests that were completely ridiculous. I've seen budget requests that were well under what was actually needed. This one is not this one is a no frills budget. And I know there's some discussion over whether or not what the definition of frills was. You know, from where I sit, from where I stand, from what I see going on in our schools, this is a no frills budget. Now, it seems to me that it has been suggested that maintenance of effort is what will be provided to the school system. It's been suggested in the press, and if that's incorrect, then I stand corrected. But maintenance of effort is providing, as a colleague of mine said in Frederick County yesterday, is providing 1 penny more than underfunding. And maintenance of effort is doing what the minimum that is required by law. And I understand the budget constraints that the county is under. I understand that it's not the best of economic times. But what the amount that went over maintenance of effort that the Board of Education requested is a reflection, at least in my opinion, and like I said, I've seen budgets, you know, for years now. It's a reflection of what they need to do the job that they've been asked to do. Finally, few years back when you gentlemen were running for commissioner, you came to ACTA and went through the interview process for recommendation for office. And at that point, although I felt like, there were probably some things politically that we disagreed on, that what you told us in those interview processes we could depend on. And one of the questions that we asked was, when a system comes with a budget, when the school system comes with a budget and asks for it to be funded, would you do what you could to fund that budget? And I take you at your word. If you say that it's not possible, I take you at your word. But I really feel like there is a way that the maintenance of effort, or that the funding that the county has requested can be funded. I think the money's there. I think it's a matter of priorities. I think it's a matter of saying we can do something to make sure that students like my son get what they need. And one other thing I want to say, and it almost slipped my mind. One question, another legitimate question that Commissioner McKay asked last year was, when we talk about losing programs, what are you talking about? Well, after funding and maintenance of effort levels last year, every middle school in the county lost one art position, which means that middle school art is now an overcrowded class. Class sizes are going up all over the county. I go into every building. I talk to my members in every setting. Class sizes are going up. When we talk about doing more with less, every employee in this system is doing more with less now. Our agriculture program is being cut back to the point that it cannot be sustained more than likely much beyond this year. And we're talking about programs for which, in a lot of instances, these are the reasons why students come to school. Some students, anyway. They come to school because they enjoy art. They come to school because they enjoy music. And it's proven over and over and over again that when students enjoy coming to school, they do better. And so when those programs don't exist anymore, it makes it much more difficult. And I taught English. I wasn't in one of the programs in a lot of instances where everybody said, yeah, I really want to come to that class. But the reality is that the more you take programs, especially ancillary programs, away, the more you lose those children that are on the margins that come to school because of art, music, and things like that. In addition to that, the special education department has been cut back severely. I think one estimate that I heard was that they've lost 14 positions in the special education department over the last few years. Special education is just not a place where we can afford to lose people, where we can afford to lose resources, where we can afford to lose those things that go to helping the kids with the most acute needs in our system. So those are some examples of some programs that have suffered because of maintenance of effort levels of funding. I think I'll leave it at that and say that, again, my function as number one, a constituent, number two, a parent, and number three, the paid representative, is because I'm up here asking you not just for what's best for my members. I'm not asking you just about what's best for the people that actually pay my salary. I'm asking you for what's best for students like my son. I'm asking you for what's best for the people that I used to work with. There's nothing about what I'm asking you right now that's disingenuous. There's nothing about what I'm asking you that's cloaked in any kind of political mumbo jumbo. I'm asking you from my heart and telling you that, in my opinion, this is what our system needs to keep its head above water. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. West. Mr. Charles Eberly.
Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening, everybody here. I'm speaking on behalf of myself as an educator. I've been in the school system as a teacher, educator, and a coach for close to 40 years, and I'm still there. I have ties with a lot of people in this room. Taught him, taught your son, coached his son, taught his son, and 3 or 4 other people back in here that I've coached, taught, or whatever. Now, I don't match Rita Shoenail's years, but I'm not that far yet. Some of the things that we're forgetting is, everybody talks about dollars and cents, and I see it every year, or every day, and every kid, every time I go to school. You're talking about people. You're talking about kids. And you're talking about quality of kids. The Board of Education, I think, is trying to keep all those programs going. When I started teaching at Braddock 25 years ago, we had about 6 or 7 kids getting free and reduced breakfast. I walk in there in the morning now, and I'm on breakfast duty at 7:20. We have 3 full tables of students getting free and reduced. And some of those kids didn't eat since the day before. One of the things, if you start cutting money and you start cutting programs, those are the kids that are going to suffer the most. Now, you talk about quality of our education system in our county. Take a look around the people in this room. How many people went through the Allegheny County Board of Education system? What would he be as finance man if for classes at Allegheny he didn't be able to take some of his mathematics classes? What would he do? Adam Patterson's an engineer, top quality engineer, went to West Virginia University on a football scholarship. What would Adam do when he went through Bell High School if he didn't have the classes as a groundwork for him to grow on? So you're talking about quality people. We have a lot of quality people in high jobs in our county, and they went through the Allegheny County school system. Something you may not know, through academics or through athletics. Well, when I started, we had 8 high schools. We have 3. I think we have 3 quality schools, and a lot of quality middle schools and elementary schools, and a lot of good educated teachers and hardworking teachers. Every one of our high schools at the end of graduation, and you can check this, each one, for the dollars that you give, every one of them through scholarships that these kids get a good basic education in their high school, go into quality colleges, universities. Each school gets about almost over $1 million or more of scholarship money to our kids to go to higher education. Every high school, you check the graduation and where they go. Now, my daughter went to McDaniel High School, McDaniel College. She was just an average student. She received $32,000, which may not be a whole lot, but to me it meant a lot. And she had a good public education, and that helped me out, $32,000 over 4 years. Now, you take every student that gets a scholarship through academics or through athletics, and you add it all up. For the dollars that you give, they're quality dollars, but you get quality dollars back. And look at the quality of people that you get coming back into our county. Jason, Adam, Paul, Mike Wade. He graduated, he's older than me. He went ahead of school with me. All right? But we have a lot of quality people, a lot of quality of educators. One of the main people, I was here at one meeting, and his name came out. He didn't name to come up, but I thought of him. Dr. Mark Nelson. If he wouldn't have had the background he had, what would he be doing now? He came back to our county. He saved my life. I went under 7-hour heart surgery under him. I'd have died. He's performed thousands and thousands of heart procedures and saved a lot of people's lives. And he came from our educational system. And we have a lot of people like that. We do have kids that go on to big universities to become accountants and doctors and lawyers and educators. But a lot of them don't come back here because there's nothing back here for them. And we got to make it quality for them back here. We got to get them to come back. And how many times we tell our kids, there's nothing for them back here. How many times have you heard that? There's nothing for him. But if you start talking about dollars and cents, you stop thinking about people, kids, every day. That if your heart and soul of your community is your educational system and your schools. And if you don't have a quality education, what are these kids going to do? You look in the paper. You think you have problems with crime and drugs in our streets now. Wait. These kids will have nothing to do. They won't go anywhere. And there's nothing for them. And then we're going to have real problems. I want to appreciate you giving me this time. Sorry I'm a little nervous. But like I said, I've touched a lot of lives in here. I've been here all my life. And I live at 14811 Viewcrest Road. I forgot to tell you that, in Cumberland. But I know dollars and cents is big. And people keep talking dollars and cents, dollars and cents. You got to think about the quality of what you're getting back. In other educational system, you're getting a lot back that you don't see. You don't see it. And we need to see that. We need to see these kids. We need to keep those programs for those kids. And like I said, when you cut dollars and cents, you cut programs. And the ones at the bottom, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? I want to thank you for the time.
Thank you, Mr.
gentlemen.
Eberly. Appreciate your comments. Mr. Jimmy Flanagan.
I'm Jimmy Flanagan. I've been a resident of LaVale over 55 years. And I'm here first because of my first concern for being here is the finances of Allegany County and the Board of Education. And secondly is a letter that's addressed to Times News about April 13th, which Mr. Haas covered very well. And after I read that, let me read you some. In essence, this writer summed up his statements about the commissioners. I wish I could say I'm surprised by the attitude of our commissioners towards school safety, but I'm not. This instance simply repeats a pattern of behavior related to our schools and how they should be funded. And that's what we're here to address, and I'll address that too. He further stated, if you want to know the priorities of an elected body, all you need to do is look at their budgets. And I think there's a lot more behind the budgets, as the coach just pointed out, with these two commissioners, and especially Mr. McKay, who has 8 children in this school system, or coming in the school system, has 8 children. I don't know how many you have in the school system. But like Mike, I think it's commendable what the job you're doing, and I'll address that too. Mike gave a very, Bill gave a very professional response to the 6 statements. One of them intrigued me. He stated maybe, which is Maryland's Association of Board of Educations, opposed a bill moving through the legislature that would have used gambling proceeds to fully fund full-time resource officers in every school in the state. Bill said he was shocked that the writer did not think that Commissioner McKay would have the same concerns and love for his 8 children as the writer did about his third grader. To which I would add that I am especially appreciative of the time, concern, management, and leadership of the 3 commissioners who, with the staff of Allegany County, are doing a very commendable performance in representing all the taxpayers of Allegany County by managing the finances and budget of the county. Let me give you some of my background before I go any further, and it's why this concerns me, this meeting here tonight, and what's been going on for some time. I have been and will always be concerned over the expenditure of Board of Education funds and education in this county, having 2 graduates of Allegany High School. It was with that interest that Maurice Miller and I and several other dedicated individuals that I've slipped their names traveled to Baltimore about 1981 when they were discussing what to do with Allegany High School then. We traveled to Baltimore and met with the State Board of Education over a potential new Allegany High School adjacent to the Votech Center where the county jail is now. The State Board of Education approved our presentation and approved the site, but alas, those with more power kept the school in Cumberland and spent untold millions remodeling a building over 50 years old. Then sports editor Suter Kegg wrote his opinion of that plan, citing who wants a new old school. And today we know the rest of the story. We have the oldest high school in Maryland. But here are the facts of the current commissioner's expenditures for a new school at the Bishop Walsh Hospital site, provided by our very competent Director of Finance, Jason M. Bennett, CPA, for fiscal year 13. The Board of Education received $29,391,956 in appropriations, and debt service payments for Board of Education projects totaled $1,380,735 for a total general fund expenditures of $30,772,691,000. This equates to 37.8% of general fund expenditures, nearly 10%, near 50% of the county expenditures for the operation of this county. Property taxes totaled $40,822,274. So we spent 75.3% of our property taxes on the Board of Education. As far as the new Allegany is concerned, he did not have a current estimate on demolition, but the total estimated cost of the new school was $41.4 million, including Allegany County government's commitment of no more than $9.2 million. I think the Board of Education has, as in the past, receive sufficient funds to manage the Board of Education, and commend the county commissioners and staff for due diligence and management of the finances of Allegheny County, and look forward to them continuing doing that. And I think I meant to mention in the forward, Gary Kleitzer Ridgely quoted recently regarding the dam project over here, a statement I liked said, "Silence and indifference equal approval." And that piqued my interest, and that was part of what caused me to come here tonight. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your service, and continue to do well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Flanagan. Thank you, Jason. Okay. Our consent agenda, what do we have on that tonight? Mr. Eberly?
Commissioners, we have...
The other Mr. Eberly.
We have for your approval this evening a employee-sponsored dental program, as well as a request to secure bids for new and used trucks for our roads department.
Okay. Gentlemen, would like to entertain a motion to accept our consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Valentine, seconded by Commissioner Brody. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Do you have anything on your desk?
Commissioners, no correspondence this week or bids to report on, other than the fact that we are having a public work session next Thursday at 4 o'clock. The items on our agenda for next week include staff recommendations for ARC projects, staff recommendations for the limited amount of program open space dollars that we have, and perhaps if time avails, we'll have an opportunity to follow up on the input that we received from this week and last week on budget preparation.
Okay. Mr. Rudd, I did get a email that the Allegheny County Bar Association was going to be doing a calendar, and that each attorney would pick a month that they would showcase. And
which one did you get?
Have you picked a particular month that you're going to? July. Yeah. July. You know, that's beach, and you know, of course with July 4th and that kind of stuff. And so it'll be interesting to see that in that calendar, sir. Commissioners. Commissioner Valentine.
Not a whole lot tonight. Just appreciate everybody coming in and talk about the budget process. It's never easy setting a budget for the county. One thing I have to say with Ms. Pappas talking about how our percentage of our total budget has gone down, I think you could sort of see that in the presentation tonight, because we've lost so much of our highway user funds. That has to go up. Our detention center costs have gone up. Yeah, the Board of Education has lost a ton of money from the state, that's for sure. Allegheny County has lost a ton of money from the state, and they keep putting more unfunded mandates on both entities. So we just have to work together and make this thing work as a team.
Commissioner Brody?
Very good. And constraints of time here, I'm going to keep this kind of short tonight because it's getting about dinner time. As usual, our calendar is on the web, but I had the opportunity this week to reach out to a gentleman that's going to be in charge of that is in charge of a very large business in Allegheny County. It happens to be Vindex Energies, a division of Anchor Coal Company, which is one of the largest coal companies in the country. We got a new general manager for Allegheny and Garrett counties. His name is Tim Brown. So thank you and Bill for leaving me to reach out to him, and hopefully shortly in the near future we'll have a little meeting with him, since they're a major producer, a major moneymaker for Allegheny County, but a major producer for coal for AES. So
We'll pass on to him that one of Maryland's biggest friends of coal is Comptroller Peter Francho.
I will, sir.
And Peter Francho is going to be coming to Allegheny County on May the 30th.
Okay.
And so he's going to be in our building, and if we were able to get those two together, it might be a
very
great
good.
idea. So,
Process.
okay. All right. I'd like to remind everybody for our next public work session, which will be Thursday. Yes, Mr. Wilmot.
I didn't sign up, but could I?
You certainly can. Yes, please, sir.
I'm Kenneth Wilmot. I live at 513 Ford Avenue. I would just like to bring to your attention support of our teachers. The church I go to, we have 2 teachers in our church. One sits in front of me, one sits behind me. Kathy, she drives a school bus, picks up pre-K, teaches them, brings them home. The other teacher is special ed. Normally, always they need pencils, glue, paper. So our church, we donate to this. And then one day I was talking to Kathy, I said, Kathy, what else do you need other than just pencils and glue and paper? She said, well, what I need is underwear. I said, underwear? She said, yeah. She said, the kids are always having accidents. She says, I have to change them. I said, well, I don't know what size you need, so I'll just give you the money and you go buy it. So that's what we do. Now then, with special ed, they need, these people, school teachers, are taking money out of their pocket for everything, all the little nitpicking stuff. You wouldn't believe it, but Allegany County, most of the children are on welfare, their families are on it. And most of the money that their families get don't go to the kids. There are kids in our school system that don't get nothing to eat over the weekend. Now, the school this one lady goes to, teaches that, they started a backpack program for kids to take snacks home over the weekend. So that's taking consideration. The teachers are bending over backwards for our county and our kids. And kids are my favorite subject. I protect them. And when our school teachers come to our church, we even, when school starts, they want backpacks. Kids don't have backpacks to carry their school books in. So we all buy backpacks. But taking consideration, we are the poorest county. Our children, when I went to school, we got one meal. It cost me 15 cents a day. And we ate over at Melbourne Chapel Church. I went to East Side for 6 years, graduated Fort Hill 54. But today, our families, most of them on welfare, and they don't take care of the children. We get this in church all the time. You would not believe the stories that come out of our schools about kids. So take in consideration, we need money for our schools. I just want you to know some of the stuff that you didn't know. I couldn't believe. I said, Kathy, you need underwear. She said, yeah, for the kids. I said, okay. So we give them money. She buys them. I said, I don't know what size you need. You buy it. So that's the way it goes in our school system. I just wanted you, I thought of that while I was sitting there, so that's why I hadn't signed up. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Mr. Wilmot, go ahead and please pass on to your pastor. Thank you very much. Okay, I'd like to remind everyone of our next public work session, which will be Thursday, May the 16th, 2013, at 4 o'clock in room 212. And our next public business meeting will be Thursday, May the 23rd at 5 o'clock right here in room 100. Please check the Allegany County government schedule news release and the announcement for the Bedford Road Highland Estates Sewer Rehab Project public meeting will be Monday, May 13th at 7 o'clock right here in room 100. As we like to always close our meeting, we thank everyone for your participation in your government and have a nice evening.